Welcome. It is the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast. I just want to say thank you for everybody that's taking time to come and join us this evening. This is going to be an awesome broadcast tonight. If you like space and if you like science, technology, engineering, you like the arts and mathematics, boy, I'll tell you what, this is going to be the program for you. It's going to be awesome. Uh, Tonight, we have a very special guest, and hopefully, I'm going to pronounce her last name properly, but it's Holly Melear, and she's going to be joining us in just a minute here. I want to let you know that this broadcast is brought to you by the LWN production media company. And, well, that's the Live with Nature. That's the foundation. It's all us. And Total Coatings, of course. If you want your bathtub refinished with a safe, non-toxic porcelain glaze, we can talk to you about that, and we can help you there. Also, cool today for your plumbing needs, your electronic or electrical, as well as air conditioning and heating needs on the west coast of Florida. Cool today. Get the best from today, and you can call them. Now, this show is about top influencers who are making a positive impact in their communities, in society as a whole. I want you to remind you to share this video if you're watching on Facebook or you're watching it ultimately on YouTube. Share this video out. Tell your friends, tell the groups that you're in members of to watch this video. It's going to be very enlightening, inspirational, and educational at the same time. I've got a quote here from you from Ray Bradbury, and I love his writing. I don't know if you've ever read any of his books in the past. I'm hoping that science fiction and space and all the things I've just mentioned are interesting to you. But he says science fiction is any idea that occurs that doesn't exist yet, but it soon will, and will change everything for everybody. And nothing will be the same again. As soon as you have some idea that will change the world, you are writing science fiction. It's always the art of the possible, not the impossible. And I don't know about you, but I know that I've always enjoyed science fiction. And as a result of that, a lot of the things that we saw in science fiction shows and books has come to pass. And so we're going to be talking about that. But let me tell you just briefly a little bit here about Holly. She's the CEO and she is the founder of Steamspace Education Outreach. That STEAM stands for, as I had mentioned earlier, science, technology, engineering, arts, as well as mathematics. And also cities in space events. And we're going to be talking about this cities in space event tonight. This is really awesome. Now, if you've got children, bring them on in because we want to inspire them tonight. This is about the future and about our children. And at Steamspace offers students and an all-inclusive community to grow and to gain an edge in the world of future space development, entrepreneurship, and education with a mission to reach underprivileged and underrepresented people and break down the barriers of socio-economics, ethnicity, disability, and learning differences. Steamspace has been thrilled to consistently host over 60 girls in their student body and have over 65% minority representation. Since its inception in 2015, it's the largest initiative, the Cities in Space Student Competition. That's going to be coming up. We're going to be telling you about that as well. It's gaining momentum, and it'll be reaching over 3,000 youth globally. It's so awesome. The pandemic this last year has caused it to be a virtual event this year. Normally it's not virtual, but we'll have Holly explain that to us. And really, without further ado, I'd love to bring her in and introduce you to her. Welcome, Holly.
Hello,
How are you
welcome.
doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. What an honor and what a treat.
You are very welcome. I'm so glad that you're here this evening. This is pretty exciting. Of course, I love science fiction. you know, I guess I got to start with the first question. Let's just talk science fiction for a minute before we get a little bit more serious, but about some other issues. Do you watch Star Trek?
I do. I have.
You
Uh,
have to.
I I don't know. I would like to say Star Trek was kind of like my peanut butter and jelly after school every day snack growing up.
Well, you
Yes.
know, why don't you share with the viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself and tell us about when you were young and just let's get to know you a little bit better here, Holly.
Oh, okay. That's great. And don't let me forget. I'd love to follow up on that Ray Bradbury quote because that was a perfect one to pick, and I have thoughts on that as well.
Excellent.
Well, about me, I live in Austin, Texas. I was born here, and I've moved away a few times, but I keep coming back, as do several of my friends. But I was raised in what I like to say a pretty steamy family. I came from mathematicians, artists, musicians, sculptors, astronomers. And so for me, I always saw the integration of science, technology, mathematics, and art. And through the years, when I was about my mid 20s, I became a teacher. And during that 20-year journey, I became more and more interested about integration of STEAM, of mixing the science with the arts, and was very fortunate to get to do a lot of wonderful conferences. Some of you listening might have heard of the Learning in the Brain conferences, quite often held over at Harvard and in Boston. And it was so often focused on the importance of integrating arts along with STEM because they had done so many studies that showed children learned so much better. Now, in the meantime of that traveling in my teaching career and learning about that, I also was raised with a huge passion and love for space. My mom loved studying astronomy and loved the stars. In fact, we had a poster of Einstein on our kitchen ceiling. We were that kind of family. And so I was always inspired to go outside and look up in the night. And just through my journey in education, which now has been over 23 years, I've learned a lot about how children learn, and how every brain is individual and different. And I've become very passionate about it in my adult life. And just being so interested in space and then watching the shuttle close down with NASA, though that was pretty heartbreaking for many of us, and it was the end of an era. It was also very exciting for many of us because we saw a lot of opportunity in commercial space emerging and new space emerging throughout the globe. And we started seeing new collaborations between, NASA and private business, as well as the European space agencies and these other space agencies across the globe. And one day in 2016, I came home from school and my family was sitting on the couch watching TV. I think I was teaching after school that day. And I saw a CEO of a rocket company discussing moving to Texas. And he began talking about what he was going to be doing and moving right outside of Austin. And I felt so incredibly inspired. I felt like all my passions, all my work, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to prepare children for that future.
That is so awesome.
Yes. And so
It really is.
Been so exciting ever since.
Well, you mentioned the space shuttle program, and I think it's kind of near and dear to my heart as well. Of course, there was a lot of school kids. I know that was a disaster, obviously, with the Challenger. It was very shocking. And then, of course, Columbia backing that one up years later. But the point is that I was blessed to be able to be there on the fourth mission and the return out at Edwards Air Force Base. And that was an experience, I have to admit.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You hear that double sonic boom, and then few minutes later, or a few seconds later, basically, you can see it. Quite the deal. Now that's science fiction come true. I
Yeah.
mean, wow.
And what change we've seen just in this past 10 years, just in this past 5 years, the momentum of space exploration has just been tripling, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Elon Musk, I mean, he's landing the rockets back on Earth, I mean,
yeah.
wow.
And
No, go
and
ahead.
and being able to support the environment in the process of, not throwing away the rocket when it's done, but being
Yeah.
able to have reusable launch systems has been, it's really shifting for everyone, right?
Yes, it is very it's very cool. I know that Elon Musk is planning for Mars. He's got his car there already, right? So
Well,
not
hopefully
so
we'll be
sure it's
able
going
to
to
see it
run
just
up there,
fine,
but
red on red. So,
well, let's go back to the Ray Bradbury statement. You wanted to say something about that. I'll just go ahead and I'll read this again for us. This is a quote from Ray Bradbury. And science fiction is any idea that occurs and doesn't exist yet, but soon will,
mm,
and will change everything for everybody. And nothing will be the same again. As soon as you have some idea that will change the world, you are writing science fiction. It's always about the possible, not the impossible.
yeah, great quote. Great quote. Um, I love that you chose that because I know we're going to talk more about the Cities in Space events that we
Yes.
helped with Steamspace. But when I first started Cities in Space, I would go talk to schools all over the place and talk about, you sitting in the classrooms right now, you're going to be the ones out there, and here's what's already happening. And an amazing man, Richard Garriott. He's a space entrepreneur in the gaming industry, a citizen astronaut. Quite respect him. He talks about something called the giggle effect. And that always really struck me because in 2015, when I began going and talking to these classes, I would get a lot of giggles of this was science fiction. And I would pretty much every time I went, the first couple of years to schools, there would always be a teacher or a parent that would come up to me and be so polite to me and say, "Excuse me, is this real?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, everything I'm showing you, it's real." And they'd be like, "What?" And we were so shocked. In 2015, our very first event, I was really expecting about 75 students. And at 500 students, um, we had the venue calling, telling us to please shut everything down. We're hitting fire code, and it's been like that every year since. You talked about the 60% girls. We've had
Yes.
that consistency every year. Great minority representation. Um, Inclusivity of learning differences, all these things near and dear to my heart. But I have noticed the giggle effect that Richard Garriott spoke of has lessened. And now instead of those giggles, when I go speak, more than the giggles, I get these nods. hmm hmm They're seeing it, you
Hmm.
know, and it's inspiring and it gives me great joy.
Yes. Well, and people thought that you were crazy if you were talking about being able to fly in space and even go to the moon or something, I mean, and yet we've been to Mars. Well, they're finding things, it seems like every day. The universes are opening up and we're learning more and more about it. And the fact that you're educating children for this next step in outer space, so to say, is really awesome. I mean, I love the concept of the imagination that's involved here, as well as all the important factors, the engineering of it. Now, you've got this Cities in Space program that's been going on for, I believe, what, 3 years now?
This will be our sixth.
Sixth. Awesome.
Can't believe it.
When
How
did
did
that
that happen? This will be our sixth Cities in Space. And last year, right before the pandemic hit, we launched our very first leadership summit as well. So the leaders for Cities in Space teams would all come into town together and meet with small pods of rocket scientists and CEOs and professionals to talk about their projects. Because with Cities in Space, it's so fun. Kids come in from all over the world to compete, collaborate, be together, and talk about living off world. It's space settlement design competition.
create your own community, and there's just more than just like creating that community. They have to put all the thought into how is it going to operate, right?
Yes, and I'm glad you said that because it is. We of course have requirements, and one of those is the settlement has to be built around having 1,500 colonists, people living in the community, but built to grow and thrive. And then we really, our whole team, because we are so passionate about education and really wanting these children, we allow 4th through 12th grade students to participate. We really want them to learn skills that can support humanity here on Earth, as well as learn about what will be beneficial up there. And so even though they all have the same academic requirements for the competition, whether it's making a video or a 3-dimensionally built model, they, as a team, have to agree on what they actually want to present on when they're judged. And this is where we really like to consider ourselves a little different than some of the other STEM and STEAM space competitions and conferences, because we really believe it's important for all these children to listen to each other and not only hear about space agriculture and architecture and space medicine, but also things like, what is the legal structure going to look like? How are we going to have art as far as design utilization and creating aesthetic spaces to help reduce anxiety in small places? Or maybe I've had some students who have really strongly wanted to become counselors to help people transition into space settlements. So it's pretty impressive. And these students who maybe just be thinking about one track, like maybe that engineering track, will walk in and they'll really see what it takes to have a thriving community, not just surviving.
That's really comprehensive, and I love that because they have to take all of what does it really take to actually have, what came to my mind, because of course I played it, was that Sim City, creating your own city thing.
Yeah.
So you had to put the infrastructure in, and you had to give people a reason to want to be there and create the jobs and
Yeah.
everything that went into it. So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Now, are people still able to? I think it was the 5th, though, was the cutoff to actually sign up for this year.
We just closed registration today. However, we've had some schools reach out, and so we're being open-minded of letting a little bit more in for the next few days.
Okay.
But then we will have to close down because our judges will have to begin preparing for the actual event on February 5th. This is such an unusual year. We've always had on-site events. And then in 2018, we had our first out of the US teams competing, online. But this is our very first 100% international virtual competition.
Wow.
And and we're thrilled.
Yeah.
We've been connecting with more countries than ever before. And
I was going to say, how many countries are going to be involved now at this point?
well, we've got some from Pakistan, from India, of course, from the United States.
Right.
So we're cruising.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's very exciting. And next year, depending on sponsorship, we hope to continue to have the virtual competition parallel with an on-site event as well. So those children have the opportunity to come on site and find each other. I think that's one of the best things about being able to do that is they find their fellow peers who have the same passions.
Yes, very cool. Now, what I wanted to do, I wanted to go to this earlier, but we'll get it out right now. Okay, so we got a video that we'd love to play for you here, and this kind of helps people a little bit more to understand what your mission here is and the purpose, right?
Yes.
So let's do that. Let's go ahead and roll that, and hopefully everything will work properly here for me.
Oh, sound.
So awesome.
Thank you so much for showing that.
You're welcome. That was a treat. I just tell you that it was.
Yeah, and it really shows all of our passions and excitement. I get excited watching it. I love doing this with the kids, but you probably saw in the video that, another really big part of our mission is to have the kids actually get to meet these industry leaders, whether it's scientists or CEOs or people who focus on space medicine or one amazing woman, Jancy McPhee. She works with NASA, as well as she has a nonprofit that focuses on art and film for
Hmm.
space. So we want these kids to get to meet these individuals and go, okay, that's where I want to go in college, because that's where I want to go work for a career. So we really want to encourage them to get to do that and be really engaged. And this year for our virtual, we've been trying to get as many ways to be engaged as we can, even though we're virtual. So if the team is registered, they get to have breakout rooms with speakers to have Q&A with them. But then we've also partnered up with an amazing company, SLU, who is an astronomy education company, and they're holding star parties virtually for the students who are competing, and they'll have a star party for us the night of Cities in Space.
Wow.
And we've been really thrilled to work with them. And then E360, of course, is
Yeah.
going to host our event. We're super excited about that too, and they've been wonderful.
Yeah, I wanted to certainly mention that. At first, I got to say this. I did see a comment here where they said that there was no sound. I'm hoping that there was sound, possibly. We didn't have an audio issue. If we did have an audio issue, I apologize for that. But they can go and watch this video, right? That's on YouTube.
It
Tell
is.
them, yeah, before we go to talk about E360, which I do want to do. Of course, we love them. But tell the viewers where they can go and see that video, if you would. And I'll try and write that in here.
I think the best way, we do have YouTube, but I think the best way to see multiple videos as well as student projects and really see more of what it's about and what other opportunities we have is to go directly to our website. And
Right.
that's steam-space.org. You got to have the dash, steam-space.org. And there are several videos up there for you to look at, as well as contact information for us if you have more questions.
Okay, I've got it here. I'll just quickly try and save that for us, and so that people can see that. We'll put that up here. Okay, so this is where you would want to go, folks, is steam-space.org, and you can find out a lot more information about Cities in Space and this competition that's coming up. We're so excited about that. Now, you were mentioning, of course, the fact that E360 is the host. And of course, we're broadcasting on E360, and we certainly appreciate everybody that's watching on either E360.com, E360TV.com, excuse me, or Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple, Android TV. You know, if you've got a smart TV, download that E360 TV app and you can watch this. Now, this is coming up, Holly, on the 5th.
Yes, on the 5th. Oh,
Ah,
very soon.
woohoo, it's coming quick. I tell
As
you.
it does.
Yeah. So that's very exciting. Now, E360, you say, is hosting that. We certainly love them at E360. We love Aaron Himes. Of course, he's such an awesome guy. I'm just glad. Yeah. I mean, it's like, thanks, Aaron. We love you. I'm really honored that you came on my show. I'm so impressed by what you're doing. I tell you, when we can get kids involved, and a lot of people might just say, oh, it's just crazy, this science fiction that turns into reality. But I know that I've seen it happen, and I know that when you look at the stars, the wonder that by just looking up into the sky going, what's going on? And I'm a fan of particularly Stargate SG-1. That's like one of my favorites. Step through the Stargate. Where do we end up? Okay.
We're,
No universe.
we're fans of that at home as well.
Believe that my granddaughter came up saying something to me about that they got NASA, and you might even know about this. I don't know. That they have heard some radio frequency waves that they can't identify, that from off world, not from here, that they don't know how this happened. So.
I think there are so many things we're going to be discovering over the next 5 years, 10 years. It's going to be such a joyful experience and exploration for all of us. And, I don't know about other life out there, but
Right.
I think, I'm a big Carl Sagan lover. And I do think that it would be a little silly and egocentrical to think we are the only ones. But most importantly, I feel that our mission is to just really educate and support these kids in skills of what it means to be a true leader who collaborates with empathy, cooperation, and compassion, as well as their intellect. And if we can train these children right here, then when they do go out there and create their own space cities and their own settlements, they will have the skills to find these amazing wonders.
Mm-hmm. It's so important that to me, as well as obviously yourself, is that um, we give our kids and the children of this world the opportunity to achieve and move forward. They are the future leaders of this world, and and I know that it's a different time and age that they're growing up in versus like myself. It's a whole different ball game these days. But technology has really changed it for a lot of them. And of course, your upcoming conference or competition, excuse me, is an example of how you can unite people from all over the world
Yeah.
virtually. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. And we see negativity with technology, but I tell students all the time, this is also quite the golden age, with what we can do with technology and science and healing the human body and space exploration. So let's take advantage and do good with it.
And I love the fact that you said the positivity because, of course, there's plenty of negativity out there to be had and to
Yes.
be absorbed and to get wrapped up in. And, myself, just like you included, we really try and focus on the positive aspects because no matter what we might experience, I'm certain there's always something positive there. We have to look for that positive.
Yes.
Even in a bad experience, there was an opportunity to learn something from that.
Yeah. Well, and what I truly believe, it's not only about looking for the positive, it's about being the positive, right?
Right.
Uh,
Yes.
we have that
Emulating it.
obligation and duty, I feel like.
Well, I'm just going to plug this concept because I love it so much. And we were talking prior to the show, and it is about gratitude. And it's about being grateful for the things that we have in this world and the opportunities that we can achieve. I believe it all starts with happiness, or that happiness starts with gratitude, and that's so important. We talked about starting our days with that gratitude, and then when you go into a day happy, you're being more creative too. I'm certain of it because you have a little higher awareness of the things that are going on around us, right?
I listened to a very interesting podcast a while ago with my family, and it was on awe and the phenomena of a human being going to look out in the night sky
Hmm.
and the awe that creates for the individual, and how that awe of seeing something so much greater than you in this starry vast universe helps support empathy psychologically. Um, and I love that idea that by helping these teams continue to look up and supporting all of us to look up and remember there's this vast, great mystery and adventure and exploration out there, that it can also help us be better to each other here.
Good point. That is a great point. Because in this world, at least in a lot of the people that I know, we believe that anything is possible in this universe. Nothing is impossible, just like Ray Bradbury says. It's not about the impossible, it's about possibilities. And so that's what's so exciting. Now, I want you to tell the viewers about, I know that you kind of touched on it earlier, but your fascination, and it started at an early age with space and with science and technology and engineering and arts. Maybe you can tell us about how that impacted you, and then you determined that this was your purpose, to be educating our youth with respect to these what's the best word to use? Well, potential career paths, really.
Yeah. Well, it's a multi-layered experience, I would have to say. When I began teaching, I did find that I just absolutely loved working with children. And now, at this point in my life, I've worked with age 3 to, seniors in high school to a little bit of college here and there. And I would say that, my big focus when I have been teaching has generally been visual arts, and I've taught 3D printing and children's engineering, and just continued to be so interested in space and incorporating the arts, and then saw the excitement in children's eyes, particularly when I was teaching engineering and 3D printing. I saw their excitement about what was happening in the world of space. And in the midst of that, and finding those passions for myself of what I liked to teach, I also received many years of training, studying social and emotional learning, which is a lot about soft skills. It's a lot about how to teach children empathy, collaboration, communication, presentation. And I saw how well that worked with young minds. And then I also studied a philosophy called project-based learning, which was about the integration of academics as well as collaboration among peers. And so these things are all traveling with me as I'm teaching and continuing to get more and more excited about what's happening in the space world, and continuing to be in love with the visual art world as well. And so it really was just kind of this, I don't want to say magical, but in a way magical moment where when I came home and saw the TV interview, and then one thing just led to another very shortly after that, like within weeks after that, I went to visit a speaking kind of workshop conference, and it was 2 people who were talking about commercial space, non-governmental space. And I ended up getting invited by another nonprofit who worked with adults on space settlement and space exploration. And I had the first Cities in Space alongside. And I've always done events. I would say I started doing events mainly in the arts when I was in my 20s. And so it's something that gives me great joy. And so once I began planning for that and seeing how much I wanted students to really be talking to these adult professionals and getting inspired, and then also incorporating film and art, and having makers giving them hands-on exhibitors and having drones and robotics where the kids could actually go and kinesthetically touch things and create things. It just lit me up, just on fire. And that's when I saw what a huge demand and need there was by so many of these kids. Yeah. And it just has gotten more and more joyful. And since then, I now have a team of an amazing, wonderful, dedicated team. And we just keep growing. We're hoping that this coming year we'll have 4 events. Okay. And so it's just continuing.
Well, definitely keep us, and I'm going to keep in touch, of course. And I'm following Cities in Space on Facebook. By the way, you can do that as well, folks. Cities in Space on Facebook. Go ahead and follow that, and then that way we can keep up on the events. Let me know, because I want to make sure that I mention that on my future shows for sure. Anything that I can do to help support you. This is a great thing that you're doing. Now, you've received a lot of awards. You've even been Teacher of the Year. Wow. So you were teaching for many years, and then, boy, your experience level is just phenomenal. And I like the fact that you've learned things about the emotional aspect of it as well. So that's very cool. I do want to read some of these awards. The Permission to Dream Award, the Teacher of the Year Award, the Morocco MSAT Award. Maybe you can tell us about that.
Yeah, that was, they were celebrating their satellite launch. And so I was invited to come work with students of Morocco, and we had a Cities in Space workshop there. And then I was very privileged and fortunate to get to talk to the professors at the university in Rabat, as well as the grad students who were interested in going into space and space exploration. So it was quite a privilege and honor.
I'll bet. And that's one of the things that you're working with too, is the aspect of space architecture, agriculture, robotics, and the emerging technologies. So maybe you can let us in on some of these emerging technologies that are going on that we need to know about. And what might you recommend then to a young person with these emerging technologies?
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. So we have, in just the past few years, opened up another category for Cities in Space that is the emerging technology category, because we've had so many students ask if they could focus on things such as asteroid mining or creating underground gardens in lava tubes on Mars, and these ways to really get soil samples. And we haven't had a lot of requests for like space elevator stuff, but the mining has been very, very huge interest, as well as really thinking about robotics and vehicles that will be used. So we decided it was pretty apropos and essential to go ahead and allow that added category. And I want to be really frank. These kids teach me stuff all the time. And every year they just get more and more amazing. I feel like I am in a constant state of learning, which is how I like to be frank. I like always learning, but I am continually challenged, particularly by some of these juniors and seniors, of what they know. We even have one student, last year we had, as I said, our first leadership summit, and that was our first round of Cities in Space ambassadors. If you're watching, you know who you are, and you're amazing. So we have amazing student ambassadors, and they have opportunities to go mentor and be with other workshops and conferences. Of course, a lot of that got stopped because of the pandemic, but one ambassador in particular, this will be his 5th year at Cities in Space, and he has made his project with his team cumulative. So every year they add more to their colony and more complexity, and it just blows my mind.
I'm just like getting the chills too because of this. I mean, this is so awesome. What I was thinking is that you were saying you always wanted to learn and that you like to learn. And I think that that's a key ingredient of a growth mindset is when you open your mind to be able to learn versus that fixed mindset that no, this is how it is. It never change. And didn't we start out saying, anything is possible, right?
Well, I will say change isn't always the easiest for me. And I often tease my family and say, I don't mind surprises as long as I plan them,
Right. Well, change is difficult, but when we challenge ourselves and we step into those fears, that's when we can learn something new, and that's when we are growing. If we don't do anything that is going to maybe be a little bit scary, then things just kind of sort of remain the same.
Yeah. Nothing's wasted, right?
Well, no, it's all the mindset, right? And so that growth mindset is really important, and particularly that's the message I think that is important for the youth is to know is to always be open to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And imagination, because older folks like myself sometimes don't get so imaginative, and we forget about what it's like to be young and dreaming and stuff like that. But from imagination comes creativity, and from that creativity becomes new innovation.
Right. And I love, that I just turned 50
Mhm.
2 weeks ago, and I've been thinking about
Happy
getting
birthday.
older. Thank you. I don't mind getting older, but being half a century, I have been quite contemplative. But thinking about that, getting older and that mindset, that's another reason why we really like to bring in these adult professionals to talk with the kids. We also bring in University of Texas at Austin, UT, Texas Rocket and Engineering Laboratory.
Oh,
Those students come and mentor our kids.
yeah.
And then we've also been fortunate to have Houston Tillotson, a really amazing, well-established HBCU in Austin. Their science students have also mentored our kids. But I think it's fundamental to have these adults working with these students because it's not just the students who are getting the benefit. This is a reciprocity.
Mhm.
It's reciprocating in the
Yes.
sense, especially with these business leaders, right? Because they're getting to see, okay, these are my future employees, perhaps employers, and
Right.
this is how I need to grow this company and evolve and change to make way for these new brilliant minds. So both parties are really benefiting and winning, and challenged. So it's a good thing.
That's yeah, very cool, and it makes so much sense. And then some in my mind, those business leaders that are listening and learning from the younger generation, those are the real leaders for sure currently. But because our youth have a lot of great ideas, and
Yeah.
you have to have an open mind. Um, and sometimes it can be tough because some people are set in their ways. I'm not set in my ways anymore. I used to be pretty set. Now, I want you to share with the viewers as well. What does leadership mean to you, though, Holly?
Hmm. That's a great question. I hope I answer it coherently. Let's see. I mean, I truthfully, I've done a lot of studies on the concept of tribal leadership. Now, that doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily how it sounds. It's a philosophy of great leaders support and embrace other great leaders and allow everyone to be a leader in an organization, trusting your team to be the experts. So I really believe a great leader trusts their team to take risks, to fly or fall, and then help pick them up. A great leader believes in failure is essential for growth. A great leader has compassion and kindness, and knows how to actively listen as well as speak, something I can struggle with at times. Yeah, I think being a great leader is all about being a team player on so many levels.
I fully agree. It is about being a team player versus the dictatorship. You know, I think people that are willing to learn from not only their customers, but as well their employees, it makes for a much better team in the end.
Yeah, I really started thinking about that many years ago. I read Dave Logan's book on tribal leadership, and he talked about different companies and corporations and who was successful and why. And it really shaped my idea of how to really be a good leader. And so much of it is based on trust, you know,
Yeah.
and being accountable.
Yes, absolutely. I think that that's a great description for certain. We're running down on time here. We only have a few minutes. I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors, though. I'm just going to go back to that. Of course, we certainly appreciate sponsorship for this program from, of course, Cool Today. Cool Today can take care of your plumbing, heating, as well as electrical needs. Certainly reach out to them. They're all the way from Tampa down to Naples. They can certainly take care of your needs. So get the best from today. You can contact them. I've got their website up. We certainly appreciate their support. It helps us to be able to carry this message of hope and inspiration on this show because, like I mentioned earlier, this is about people like Holly who are making such a positive impact in their communities. And I'm just so proud of for everything that you do there. I'd also like to acknowledge Total Coatings. I'm going to go to a quick commercial here, and then we'll be right back with some closing thoughts. Stick with us, and we'll be right back.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it. It had deep pitting in it. There were chips. I, quite frankly, thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.
So thank you, Total Coatings. We certainly appreciate you. Reach on out to them if you would like to transform that bathtub and save yourself a whole lot of money with a safe and a non-toxic porcelain glaze. They can help you there as well. Get the best from today. If you need anything with plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, that's what we need mostly out here. You do too, out in there in Austin. It gets pretty hot in the summer, doesn't it?
Yes, we do.
Well, I lived in Tyler, Texas for about 4 years.
Oh, yeah,
And I love Austin, by the way. I think it's just a wonderful town. Very high tech, and most people don't know that. Very high tech.
Yeah.
which is the main computer company there? I'm trying to think. Is it Compaq? Or are they even
Um,
still around?
Samsung, we have several.
Lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing. So a beautiful area there, and of course I got to shout out Willie Nelson because he lives in the area as well too. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan.
And we all
But
love Willie.
yeah, good. I hope so. I mean, you don't have to love Willie Nelson, but man, he makes some great music. But that's not why we're here tonight. We've been learning about space. We've been learning about cities in space and the competition. That's coming up here at in February. Please just go ahead. I'll let you just finish up here and share some final thoughts with the viewers there, Holly.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd love to say thank you for having me on tonight. And thank you to the viewers for taking the time out to hear. We would love for you to reach out to us. Any questions, we're always looking to engage with more children. Our goal is to reach as many children across the globe as possible. If you have a child that is 4th through 12th grade, they have opportunity with Steamspace and with the Cities in Space competitions. Again, our website is steam-space.org. We are also open for sponsorship. If you or your business would like to sponsor our students in our event, we would love to hear from you for that as well. But just reach out. We can't wait to talk to you.
Awesome. We certainly appreciate everybody that's taking time to come and join us this evening. We'll be back on Monday, and we'll have another influencer for you. I'm not looking at my calendar right this minute, but you just don't want to miss any of my programs, really. So come back and join us, right? We appreciate you. We hope that you're doing well. Of course, welcome to 2021. It's a great year. Let's make it the best year possible, right? Get
Yeah.
creative. Yeah. Use your imagination
Yep.
and create something wonderful. Awesome. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you all. Take care, everybody, and have a good evening.